Welcome. This is Caravan to Midnight, and we have a program for you. This is going to be a strong one, but before we get rolling here, I want to send a message right now to all of the Catholics in the audience, those practitioners of Catholicism. Now, yesterday, just coming fully into the mindset that results from observing these terror attacks and all this emotional pulling of the heartstrings, and then this Pope Francis and the wall and so forth. I want to make myself clear on something because it's important. If not to you, then I got to tell you it's important to me. Because I would rather lose your support than to lose your support because I misrepresented through my speeches what I was actually thinking. Practitioners of Catholicism, there are a lot of very, very good people in the Catholic Church, in the Methodist Church, in the Episcopalian Church, Church of Christ, pick one. My entire point is that, have you noticed how religion has been weaponized? Now, our minds first go to Islam and the AK-47, maybe even a 74 if you want to get real modern with it, right? But weaponization isn't necessarily guns and knives. Politics. Once any church becomes politically active, begins preaching these political ideas to its vast audience, that church has become weaponized on that level, the political level. So don't get the idea that I was picking on the Catholics specifically. Every once in a while, something will come up about the Jesuits. You know, we'll listen to that for a minute because so few people know very much about them. It's almost a secret society. Maybe it is a secret society. But then again, we don't talk much about charismatic Christian groups or churches, and they pull out their snakes and everything else. We don't talk about the mega churches where the preacher has to tell the women in the crowd, listen, this is a church. And if you don't start dressing appropriately for church, there are 2,000 people in this auditorium. I was there when this happened. This is a few years ago, but it doesn't matter. Might as well have been yesterday. If you don't dress appropriately for church, I'm going to turn the thermostat down to where you're going to be freezing before the end of the sermon. There are also contemporary churches out there that profess to be Christian churches. And frankly, they're nothing but hookup places. So don't get the idea I was picking on the Catholic Church. If you go back into the history, you'll see that every religion has its leaders who somehow or another managed to get another agenda going besides looking after the faithful, looking after their flock. That's what they're supposed to do. But instead, they involve themselves in all sorts. I'm pretty sure that not every Catholic in the audience is all on board the climate change train. Okay, so are we clear here? I hope so, because, again, I'd rather you just went, I've had enough of Caravan to Midnight. I'm not going to do this anymore, rather than to go, he offended me deeply about my religion. No, I'm not. I repeat, your faith is your faith, and you're entitled to it. And I'll jump on a Methodist minister or a Presbyterian minister. That church, by the way, is split down the middle. More on that later. As fast as anyone else. So I wasn't picking on you. And I know the Jews and Catholics particularly have been picked on quite a lot. You would never hear anybody saying, oh, those damn Episcopalians. You never hear that. Right? Are we together on this? All right, good. Now, what's all this about these terror attacks? The Times Square attack. Oh, don't call it terrorism yet. Let's not jump to conclusions. Let's not jump to any conclusions, but let's see if we can find our way to one. It's all about the media and the presentation, don't you find? All right, this is a quick one. From MediaEqualizer.com by Brian Maloney. Sean Hannity, signals imminent end of Fox News Channel program. After a 2-decade run, is the end of Sean Hannity's Fox News Channel program near? Based on unusually strong hints from the host himself, the answer appears to be yes. Under internal pressure over his pursuit of the truth behind the Seth Rich story. Stay on it, everybody. Stay on it. If there's anybody out there, anybody who knows something about Seth Rich, if you're a cop, if you're an ambulance driver, if you're a medical attendant, if you're a doc, if you're a neighbor, if you're an observer, reach out to us. We will keep your identity totally secret from the outside world, but we need to stay on Seth Rich, because if we find out that his murder goes back to the DNC, it's over with for some really serious, deranged, criminal pukes. Okay? Network suits are apparently closing in on one of the network's remaining conservative holdouts. That would be Hannity. In his opening statement, Hannity told viewers, that was last night, "I promise that I will continue to tell the truth. As for my future at Fox News, Media Matters is attacking. The left is organizing an advertising boycott. I will continue to do my job to the best of my ability. I serve at the pleasure of Fox News." More ominously, he concluded at 11 p.m. by saying, quote, "Hopefully I will see you again tomorrow night." Earlier, Fox retracted news coverage regarding Rich's 2016 murder, which has intrigued many political followers since the DNC staffer's body was found last summer. And there's widespread evidence that Rupert Murdoch's sons, who now run its day-to-day operation, are fully committed to permanently wiping away its conservative programming. Hashtag Stand With Sean, an effort led by Stop the Scalping's co-founder Melanie Morgan, is continuing its efforts to stand by Hannity while he's under fire. This writer is also part of the organization. That means this writer here. And again, I say his name is let me have it again, Brian Maloney. All right, now. On the group's Facebook page, Morgan told followers Hannity is under real threat, but he promised to tell the truth and continue at Fox as long as they let him. Hannity's told me personally he's making some strategic moves, and this has to do with the Seth Rich murder case. Quote, "Sean Hannity is one smart, wily, fierce fighter. He needs our support even more now. There is turmoil and dissension at Fox News," she added. Since radio and television hosts rarely have a chance to say goodbye to their longtime audiences, tonight's show may have been intended to be just that. Okay? Well, that's the same thing that happened to me when I was at the zoo. I had record numbers. 23.8 share, men 18 to 45. You would think that somebody would say, hey, we can make some money with this guy. No. Same thing at Coast to Coast AM. Didn't say goodbye to anybody. Got a call on Tuesday. That was the end of that. Same thing happened with O'Reilly. That's usually the way it is. They're afraid somebody's going to say something that might make the company look bad. But what the company doesn't realize is by not letting the host say goodbye to his audience, you made yourself look bad. But there it is. All right. Now, 7 in 10 Brits, according to an article by Ian Johnston at independent.co.uk, 7 in 10 Brits would support world government to protect humanity from global catastrophes. 7 in 10. Whether it's the specter of nuclear conflict over North Korea or our planet tipping into catastrophic climate change, the need for effective global cooperation has never been greater. Yep, nearly 7 out of 10 people in the UK support the creation of a form of world government that would be able to force countries to deal with major risks facing the world, such as climate change and nuclear weapons, according to a major new survey. And 62% said they consider themselves to be a global citizen, in addition to being British. Which will likely disappoint Theresa May, who told the last Conservative conference, if you believe you're a citizen of the world, you're a citizen of nowhere. Well, you know who the citizen of the world is? It's the International. Internationale. Communist. That's the International. The ComRes survey, C-O-M-R-E-S survey, commissioned ahead of the G7 summit in Sicily by the Global Challenges Foundation, interviewed 8,100 people in 8 countries, right? Australia, Brazil, China, Germany, India, South Africa, the UK, and the US, which are collectively home to half the world's population. The Swedish Foundation also issued a report called Global Catastrophic Risks 2017, which detailed a diverse range of possible threats: a giant asteroid hitting Earth, disease pandemics, a massive volcanic eruption, artificial intelligence turning against us, weapons of mass destruction, and ecological collapse all made the list. The report warned that if the bleakest scientific estimates of how bad global warming could get turn out to be correct, there was a, quote, high likelihood of human civilization coming to an end. So it was perhaps encouraging that across all 8 countries the survey found significant support for taking action on global warming. That old tired line, really? I'm going to check something very quickly. Nope. Less than 24 hours ago, this piece of rubbish was published at independent.co.uk, but they may be doing us a service by publishing it, because I suspect their survey is based, and the results certainly are based, in lies. Okay? 88% of respondents said they would be prepared to make changes that would affect their living standards to prevent catastrophic climate change in the future. Mats Andersson, the Foundation's vice chairman, urged the G7 to work together to address people's fears. As world leaders gather for the G7 summit, they should be aware that citizens across the planet are yearning for them to collaborate and work harder to find solutions for these critical threats to humanity. Whether it's the specter of nuclear conflict over North Korea or our planet tipping into catastrophic climate change, the need for effective global cooperation has never been greater. In the UK, some 71% ranked the potential use of weapons of mass destruction as one of the main dangers, and 80% agreed climate change could turn into a global catastrophe. These are people probably that include a pretty high percentage of people who refuse to step on a crack in the sidewalk or walk under a ladder or pass by a vertical pole with the person they're walking with on the other side of it and say bread and butter. These are people who feel uncomfortable about living in a building or having an office that has the 13th floor. It's 2017. Countries most concerned about global insecurity were Brazil at 80%, Germany 71%, South Africa 70%. Of the 8 countries, China was the least concerned at 41%, followed by India at 47%. Well, I can see where Brazil, Germany, and South Africa would definitely have some issues. Germany's women are being raped and beaten up and bleeped over continuously. Brazil is turned into a disaster zone. If they're not careful, they're going to go the way of Venezuela. And South Africa, well, they found out how great it was to put in an idiot an idiot in for a president. That would be Zuma. And then get rid of all the white people, even though when the white people showed up in South Africa, the indigenous people there, of which there were very few on the Cape, this goes for the rest of Africa, the rest of sub-Saharan Africa. By 1600, they had not even invented the wheel, nor built a building of more than 1 story. It's true. And they still build their little houses out of cow manure. If you don't believe me, look it up. You see, if the engineers weren't racist, they would have built the reservoirs smaller so that they would fill up. But as it is, they're so big, they don't fill up. This is the mentality that runs a once nuclear state. Some 74% of people in the U.S. thought climate change could become a global catastrophe, the lowest level among the 8 countries. Brazil and South Africa were the most concerned, both at 91%, followed by India at 90% and China at 86%. So in the end, it's all about fear. Oh boy. The report states that although the tension between nuclear states has diminished since the end of the Cold War and disarmament efforts have reduced arsenals, the prospect of a nuclear war remains present and might be closer today than it was a decade ago. Might be closer today. Its immediate effect would be a catastrophic destruction of lives and cities and debilitation, illness, and deaths from radiation. But another concern is the risk that the dust released from nuclear explosions could plunge the planet into a mini ice age, with dramatic ecological consequences, severe agricultural collapse, and a large proportion of the world population dying in a famine. In high-end scenarios, the scale of destruction is beyond our capacity to mode, with a high likelihood of human civilization coming to an end. Well, you know, if we could start with the elites, it might be all right. A couple more quick points. The National Security Agency under former President Barack Obama routinely violated American privacy protections while scouring through overseas intercepts and failed to disclose the extent of the problems until the final days before Mr. Trump was elected president last fall, according to once top-secret documents that chronicle some of the most serious constitutional abuses to date by the U.S. intelligence community. Barack Obama. Bastard. As illegitimate a president as one could possibly conceive, deliberately concoct, let alone place into office. And one last thing, and I'll be done. But not quite. Debbie Wasserman Schultz threatened police chief for gathering evidence on her IT staffers' alleged crimes. From the Daily Caller, Luke Rosiak wrote this. Yes, Debbie Wasserman Schultz threatened the chief of the U.S. Capitol Police with consequences for holding equipment that she says belongs to her in order to build a criminal case against a Pakistani staffer suspected of massive cybersecurity breaches involving funneling sensitive congressional data off-site. I wonder if that could have been one of the Awan brothers that we discussed at length on this program. Florida lawmaker used her position on the committee that sets the police force's budget to press its chief to relinquish the piece of evidence Thursday in what could be considered using her authority to attempt to interfere with a criminal investigation, otherwise known as obstruction of justice. The Capitol Police and outside agencies are pursuing, oh, there it is, Imran Awan, who's run technology for the Florida lawmaker since 2005 and was banned from the House network in February on suspicion of data breaches and theft. So there you go. We're getting set up big time, folks. We really are. Okay, I can't resist. One last thing before we bring on our new segment guest. This is from campusreform.org. A lawsuit is proceeding against Kellogg Community College for its arrest of 3 conservative activists who were distributing, oh, horror, pocket constitutions on campus last year. As Campus Reform reported in January, student Shelley Gregor and 2 conservative activists, Nathan Burning and Isaac Edakauskas, spent 2 to 3 hours handing out constitutions and recruiting for a Young Americans for Liberty chapter on campus in September before they were accosted by administrators and ultimately arrested for trespassing. Students who come from rural farm areas might not feel like they have the choice to ignore the question. We ask that you don't do it in the middle of everything, and part of that is because if we obstruct the student's ability to get an education, then it kind of becomes counterintuitive to the whole right to speak kind of Second Amendment rights, Hutchison explained, intending to cite the First Amendment. Hutchison went on to assert that the questions they were asking students, specifically whether they liked freedom and liberty, were too provocative, even suggesting that the interactions broke the student code of conduct because they prevented students from reaching their educational places. This is the kind of idiotic trash you have in charge of academia, with calls for white people to be, particularly white men, because, you know, the white women are kind of desirable by the pervs, right? Always have been, all the way back to slavery days. They're okay, but white men in academia, no, they're dangerous. Yeah, you're damn right we're dangerous. You know why? Because we've got an IQ above, what, 30? Ole Dammegard came on just last week, and we had a really nice conversation, but I thought in light of this, this Times Square incident where this maniacal driver does a U-turn up onto a sidewalk, runs over a bunch of people. The report is killing one of them. And then this Manchester arena bombing with the Ariana Grande concert goers. 22 people killed, 22nd of May, 22-year-old guy is the perpetrator, and all of that. I thought, who's the first? Ole. So here he is. Welcome back. It's quicker than I thought, but I'm delighted that you made time for us.
Thank you so much. Well, anytime, John, anytime. Unfortunately, I have to. There's so many of these operations now that it's just like being up against a professional boxer. It's just like doom, 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 doom. They hit us all the time. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Well, let me ask you something. M.S. King, you may know of his work. He's a writer. He's got this website called tomatobubble.com, right? And he's written a lot of controversial books which go directly against the grain of that which is recorded in traditional and established historical publications. One in particular comes to mind. It's about, it's entitled The Bad War, and it's about World War II and Hitler, and it involves Benjamin Disraeli and all these players, and Churchill and this and that and the other. And he had 300 and some odd positive reviews, but now Amazon apparently decided to quit carrying it. So I thought, okay. And he says this Manchester bombing does not look right to him at all. He's posted an article that is to the effect, this is staged. Do you think this is staged? Because as I looked at the photographs, he's right. Look, pants cut off there, tiny bandage on knee, no blood. Look, the girl over there, pants cut off, tiny bandage on knee. I don't know if what we're seeing, and after we went through that thing with the crisis solutions, I'm looking at the expressions on the people's faces, and I don't know, the British are really steady people. They've had bombs dropped on them before, and they just, keep calm and carry on. But there's something about this that does not look right to me, and if it is a real event, then I have no right in the minds of some people even suggest such a thing if they've lost somebody. But Ole, what are we looking at here when we look at this coverage? First there's the knifing of the policeman over by the Parliament building, and now this thing.
Do you remember when we were checking out Crisis Solutions website, where they could do simultaneous attacks on different cities and on different continents at the same time? They're bragging on it with their own video.
Yep.
Okay, what were the cities they were saying as a suggestion that they could hit at the same time?
Well, I believe Manchester was one of them.
And New York was the third one.
Yep.
And Edinburgh, where they had a drill on the 9th of April. So we're seeing exactly these the same cities that this very, very, very suspicious enterprise, in my opinion, have on their own video. But as always, it's very important not to jump into conclusions, but once you start seeing how these things work, you have to react. And I really like this thing when you said the 22, 22, 22, 22. Please notice the dates. I'm just going to give you a few because they love these numbers. The numerology, even though I'm not an expert in that area, it keeps repeating. So on the 22nd of a month, on the 22nd of May, there was this Manchester thing. On the 22nd of March, there was the London bridge attack, the Westminster Bridge attack. On the 22nd of July 2016, there was the München shooting. On the 22nd of March, there was the Brussels attack, exactly 1 year before the London attack. Then in 2015, there was the Borneo bombing on the 22nd of October. There was one bomb in the 22nd of July in a place called Gombe. There was on the 22nd of May, there was in Al-Qadi. Another one on the 22nd of December 2014 in Gombe again. 22nd of October, the Ottawa shooting, 2014. Then the 22nd of February 2014 in Kiev. on the 22nd of June 2013, Kashmir. On the 22nd of May 2013, the so-called Woolwich beheading, which was right before the Bilderberg meeting, which is always around the 1st of June. So I'm telling you, we're going to see one more because they always have one that divert the attention away from the Bilderberg meeting. Then you had the 22nd of July 2011, the Utøya mass shooting in Norway, where also the government building was blown up. On the 22nd of February, Christchurch, New Zealand. On the 22nd of February 2004, the Jerusalem bombing. 22nd of December 2000, the Delhi bombing, and so on. And also the 22nd of November, JFK. And the 22nd of December 1913, the Federal Reserve. And 22nd of June 1941, Operation Barbarossa. And so on. They are very, very much into these dates. And so either it's an extreme coincidence, but when there's so many coincidences in so many different areas, you have to start looking at it. So what happened here, I don't know, do you want to do Times Square first or Manchester?
Gentleman's choice.
Okay, I would say that when Times Square happened, also if you remember last time I went through what type of targets would they have. It would be, when it comes to the location, it would be some kind of location that have some kind of national identity and touristic value. Okay, we were talking about the Statue of Liberty, Twin Towers, and so on. I did not think of Times Square, but when you think of it, there are not that many left. They've already hit so many. If it's in Europe, it's Big Ben, the Eiffel Tower, Acropolis, the Colosseum, the Little Mermaid in Denmark, Venice, but more or less that's it. So they're running out of targets, and so it's now I think they've shifted from locations to like we see here more and more soccer teams, you know, with thousands and thousands of fans, or rock stars, concerts. These are what they aim at as well. Or it's communication centers like train stations, airports, but also they hit ferries, trains, buses, and airplanes. So these are the areas where they would hit. And here we have an identical or a perfect hit in Times Square, which has these exact qualities. And then in Manchester, where it's said to be the biggest arena in Europe. And the artist this evening was Ariana Grande, who is a colleague and friend of Nicki Minaj, who was on the bridge, the Westminster Bridge, the exact day before the bombing or this attack happened this year, just a month or so ago, where they said that they were filming her new video called No Fraud. And there's a photo session where she's standing exactly where one of the victims the day after is said to have been killed. The same postcards holding up the English flag, just almost like the Statue of Liberty, with this very strong national symbol. Because the thing is, when you look at these things, you have to look at it as, if it's not a real event, then you have to look at a multi-layered operation where there will be a psyop involved, where they're aiming at diverting or pointing the population's attention in a certain direction, opening up emotionally for their agenda. Their agenda all the time is the same: total control, death and destruction. That's it. Boom. In the shape of weapons, oil, drugs, pedophile trafficking, organ trafficking, and so on. And then wars. But with the help of these false flag operations to get us, the normal people, to accept and even support these unjust wars that they keep starting, and so on. So This thing, I have to say that when the Times Square happened, I was like, whoa, this is on a totally new level, because it was much more sophisticated than anything we've seen so far. Because normally the CCTV footage just goes down and is totally dead when these things happen. I also think that the people behind these operations are learning from us being pointing out all the weak spots. So this time, suddenly, there were multiple CCTV cameras that is said to have filmed this car hitting all of these people. So if it's real, horrible, horrible, horrible. But let's have a look. And one of the things that with the CCTV footage, it's normally very low quality, and it's the same here. It's the quality very low, so it's hard to really look at details and so on. But one of the things that the first thing, when you go frame by frame by frame, one of the first things I saw was that after the car turns around and goes up on the pavement and starts hitting people. I mean, people are flying right, left, and center. But when you go frame by frame by frame, you will see that there are three bodies stuck on the car. One guy is like sitting on the right fender, almost where the headlight is, on the right side of the fender, and he's sitting there outside, sort of like hanging on that fender for like 10, 15 yards. And there's another one that is across the windshield, all in gray. It's very hard to see if it's actually a person or if it's just a dummy in gray that is also stuck on the car. And then there's one female body that is stuck to the grill, or whatever you call it, underneath in front of the wheels. And it goes on for 8-10 yards. They're just hanging there in midair, but on the car itself. And then it looks like the car just crashes, drives straight across the woman that is hanging in front of it. And when the body is hanging there, it's got shoes. But then you see where the car just continues, and you see the woman roll away and almost stand up right away, even though she's went under the car, was definitely hit, run over with the tires, and this person has no shoes on. Then you see that the car continues down, and at a certain point there's a lot of smoke coming out behind it, which is normally the radiator or the engine block that has been hit. So that is possible. But then the final impact, that is just like 2 seconds later, when the car hits these bollards, there's no smoke at all. So we're looking at some serious CGI manipulation, I would humbly suggest, when it comes to that. Also, when you see the claimed victims, or you will see that normally if a normal person is hit in a hit and run, or a car hits them on a pedestrian crossing or something like that, the ambulances will come and get the wounded people in the ambulance as soon as possible and get them to hospital. I mean, that is the main object. But here, when you look at the footage of these people lying around on the pavement, you will see that in the background, the police have cordoned off the whole area with these plastic tape things, crime site cordon off, plastic yellow stuff, but also with big metal barriers, almost the same as they use at rock concerts and so on. But still, the people are there being treated on the pavement. And I've spoken to doctors with more than 30 years experience. They say that yes, if you fear some serious neck or back injuries, there can be a delay where you have to stabilize the neck and you have to get them onto a special stretcher before we can move them and so on. Or if it's CPR, that they're sort of, you need to continue, they will give them CPR, but then slowly try and get them into the ambulance that is equipped, and then get them to hospital as soon as possible. But here, they're there for a long, long time. You will also see that there are very few victims, really. There are lots of photos, but it's the same people that you see from different angles. And then there's, for instance, a lot of weird things in the background. There's one guy, he's in red, and he's some kind of ticket salesperson who's been interviewed. He's got a cap on and so on. And he's starting saying, oh, he's describing the whole thing. But if you look in the background, there's a massive big, one of these lit up sort of poster thing in Times Square that is talking about a new Netflix series, and it says April the 7th. When have you ever seen that they make advertisements about an upcoming series 1 month old? So I tell you, what you see many times when it's a false flag operation, not a real event, is that there have been a drill beforehand, which they've had several in the area, where the same theme has been played out in different sequences, and where footage have been collected, where they filmed different things, and then when these things happen, boom, it's being bombarded out, pumped out through media that this is live footage, but it's not. It's a mix. So also they have, when you really start looking into the details, because of this psyop I'm talking about, this happened on 1515 Broadway, but when you look at the sign, it almost looks like ISIS, the 1515, and it's often right in the center of these images. Then you have another one in the background. There's one fire truck that is right behind the truck, the car that is, where the smoke is coming out of it. And if you zoom in on the side of the truck, in very big letters, it says 9/11/2001. Why would it say that on a fire truck? But it says 9 and then 11 and the year 2001.
My only
then
guess
you have
is
a
that
cap.
maybe it's some commemorative thing. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Maybe it was one of the units that responded. Maybe,
Possible, for sure,
for sure. Coincidence, though.
That is possible. Sorry, could you say again, please?
A hell of a coincidence, that's for sure.
It's for sure. All of these things, if I had not seen it being repeated so many times, I wouldn't point them out. I'm process of both trying to look deep into this Times Square as well as the Manchester. So I've been just totally overloaded. So I need like a few more weeks or so to really dig into it. But I can tell you, in my opinion, based on 30 odd years, definitely, both of them staged events.
Yeah.
Also, you have the do you remember we were talking about how the extras are being taken to and from a location in buses? Here we have the exact same thing. They're being transported away inside one of the fire trucks. That's sort of like a fire brigade bus. Some of them are being transported there. At the same time, there's also a big white bus that is being reversed in so that it blocks the view, so nobody can see from the outside what's actually going on. So how they did it, I'm not totally sure. I think the car itself, if it's a combination of CGI with the bodies falling over, combined with there's some of these people that are because there's especially one quite heavyset. I think he's black. He's got a black T-shirt on. And he's lying around. Nobody cares about him. He's just lying on the pavement. Everybody's walking around looking at other stuff, but he keeps lying there for quite a long time. And if you look closely, underneath his black T-shirt, he's got like what looks like a body armor type of thing, exactly like Stuntman has. So there's also one dead and so many people hit. I mean, it's just unreal when you see what is happening and how fast the car comes and the impact and so on. So I'm still confused because possibly the impact where he hits pedestrians, that's CGI, and then the very final part where he drives forward and hits these bollards, steel bollards, that is real. But the way it just goes up and ends up so dramatically on top of the bollards, I don't know. Then when you look at I'm just pointing things out. I can't say that it's on purpose, but many times there's also this whole thing as part of the operation that you need more protection. You, the population need more protection. So you need to invest millions of your hard-earned tax money in security equipment for your sake. That we are the owners of these companies and so on, doesn't matter. Don't worry about that. But these steel bullets have been promoted from Berlin and onwards since these truck attacks that I have debunked, and many others, every single one. There's 2-hour interviews on YouTube on every single event since 2014 or something like that, where we pick them apart. Yeah. Anyway, so you go to the company that manufactures these bullets, and it's called the name CAL. I can't really remember it, but they have a video where they say that they were given in 2016 this project to install bullets on 2 locations in the U.S., Times Square and I think it was Los Angeles. So they are filming, and they're talking about the protection against terror attacks, and the video where the promotion video of this whole thing is filming exactly where the car hit, the same red benches or chairs and tables in the background, the same flower pots, exactly. I mean, they're standing where this car was hanging, doing the filming. How incredibly good these bullets were. Coincidence, possibly part of a product placement psyop. I can't say.
Yeah. There's the reaction.
Then you also...
No, go ahead. We got a little delay here. No, you go ahead. We've got a delay here. I stepped on you.
No, but it's also that, the guy that is said to have done this, he gets out of the car, he behaves absolutely irrational, jumps around, and then the first guy that approaches him has an earpiece, and I mean, he's armed, and one of these guys, definitely one of the alphabet agencies, and he is the first guy that is there. When you see the guy jumping around on the pedestrian crossing, he is in a light blue sort of t-shirt type of thing. That's the guy. Then you have so many of these victims have these like name tags around their neck, but they've got identical name tags on them, and also next to many of these victims, they have the same exact same water bottle and brand of water, which is once again possible. It is possible that somebody went around and gave them this water. But if you've been on a film set, which if I'm correct, then this is almost identical to a film set when they set these false flags up. Then you have somebody, a production person responsible for the extras and so on, that if it's a sunny day will go around and give water bottles to everyone, but they will be the same type of water bottle. And here we see exactly that also. So I tell you, there's also CGI where you see that these bodies are being thrown to the sides and so on. But when you see step by frame by frame by frame, there's especially one woman that is said to have been hit, and then she rolls over on the pavement. But the thing is, there's a very strong shadow from a street sign, and her legs just disappear. When they hit this shadow, they just disappear, and then you don't see them again. So there's these abnormalities in it, but you just need to be extremely, aware of them to find them. So I'm going to do everything I can to find as much of these things as possible and point them out.
Yeah, I was just looking at a couple of images there that were put up on the screen, and there's this one appears to be a young woman who's lying there on her side, but she's not bleeding. Her clothes aren't disturbed. And then there's a guy sitting kind of on one glute on the sidewalk, and for some reason he has his tennis shoe off.
Yeah.
He has his Under Armour tennis shoe.
There's the
on.
shoes.
He's just sitting there. There's no
the shoes. We were talking about this Freemasonic part as the ritual where they always in these false flags, 1 or 2 shoes are off. And here we see multiple of these victims have 1 or 2 shoes off.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that according to Freemasonic rituals, 1 shoe off shows that the individual is voluntarily taking part of this ritual. They see it as a ritual. 2 shoes off shows homage to the sacrificial area where this is carried out. So there are shoes all over the place once again. And these are very, very important. It might sound like so what, but they're very important because these are one of the things that give away that this is a staged event.
You know, there is a caravaner, and I'll just identify her as Anne, who contacted our analyst, who shall remain nameless just because I don't want him pulling any more exposure than we're already pulling, which is plenty. And there was a video that I viewed, and I'll just describe it rather than roll it because we're just not ready to roll it yet, okay? Now, what you see is this car that's going to get crazy in a minute and go down the street and pull a U-turn and come up on the sidewalk and run over a bunch of people, supposedly. And what you see is it's a 2-lane street, and this white van moves, it starts to move over into the left lane from the right lane. Just kind of slows things down. Now, it's a montage of footage from various cameras. There's a chase camera, and there's a drugstore camera. I want to say it was a Walgreens. I'm pretty sure it was. So the question that's posed is, so what? You just went to these places and said, give me your surveillance footage. I need it here for a minute. And they go, yeah, sure, here it is. What you see is that when this white van pulls from the right lane into the left and the perpetrator car goes on, you see the camera, the security fixed position, I presume. Now, of course, we can, hey, it's 360 degrees. You can pivot this thing with your mouse, whatever. But what you see in this video is you see just a slight shift and a slight zoom in on that van, which appears to be either an observer or some kind of participant. Again, it's either that or it's one heck of a coincidence. But what's really odd is that the camera pans just a couple of degrees to the right and zooms in just very slightly, as if for some reason this van has attracted the attention of the AI, which I doubt very seriously is powering that surveillance system. They're just outdoor sidewalk cameras. And then when this thing comes around and then does this car goes down the street and then does this violent U-turn, just really quick, like somebody that really knows what they're doing. I wouldn't pull a turn like that necessarily unless I was really getting crazy with it, but this is a precision U-turn up onto the sidewalk. And then when it comes up and starts running over people, now you get several angles. Oh, look, it's coming toward you. Oh, look, it's going away from you. It's not one camera following the car down. Here it comes, and then you cut to it, there it goes. And you see this one guy hold his hands up like this, holds his hands up. Well, nobody does that. I've never seen anybody react that way. It was almost like make physical movement of alarm now, rather than a natural reaction to what he was observing. And I know that girl looks like a girl that's been hit, and I'm going, is she stuck on the car or what? And then it looks like something got dumped over to the right side of the car, but I can't really tell if it's a person or not. It looks, this is ridiculous. I'm not entirely serious about this, folks. But one might, if one were in a flippant move, say it looks like that was some sort of an inflatable doll that just got popped, because what falls off the side of the car does not look like a full-size person. And I'm thinking to myself, that was such a disturbing presentation that you provided us when you were on last week, that I keep thinking of when's the last time you ran an exercise? And then all of those cities, Manchester and New York, and then boom, boom, boom. Oh, Manchester and New York just happened to be the ones that were targeted. And then that part about crisis solutions. The clue is in the name, really. What? So, again, I don't want to just beat this horse until the poor thing is glue, let alone dead. But What is happening to us? Ole, what is happening to us? Now this report comes out. Jones posted on InfoWars about 71%, according to this survey of people conducted by some Stockholm this or that. 71% want a supranational global governing crisis management agency or organization, a la NATO or the UN, or the examples cited. And it's just, this is becoming beyond dystopian. It's turning into almost a cartoon, and people are buying it. I think. I don't know if people really are buying it, or maybe the idea is to get them to just not buy any of it. Maybe the idea is to desensitize people with such a high frequency of these incidents that they don't even pay any attention to the real ones once the real ones begin to occur.
Well, the agenda is very obvious for many years, where one of the things is that they want a one world army, which they are trying to create now. I mean, it's the UN is now creating their own army. You get the UN troops, you have the NATO troops, and the US Army. These are in the process of being pushed into one unit because of all of these threats and so on. That army will be there and protect you, to control us. That's the whole point. And they're trying to make us used to seeing tanks in the street and martial law things almost like that, and soldiers walking around with automatic weapons when you take the subway and so we get used to it, numbed down to it. So this is also now, they say 71%. Who says? Just because it's in one of the newspapers owned by the same forces that are carrying these operations out does not mean that 71% of the population thinks that. Absolutely not. Somebody said 71%. Okay, print. Thank you very much. I don't trust anything in mainstream anymore. I mean, it's come to that point. And when you look at how many journalists, I think it was in the 70s, where in front of the church Senate, where William Colby, the CIA director, was asked how many journalists they controlled. I believe it was 1,200 by then, if I'm correct. 1,200 journalists in key positions in the U.S. only that were in the pockets of the CIA. What does that tell you?
Yeah,
can you trust it? What are the budgets they're using from media? I mean, it's incredible the amount of people that are there involved in disinformation.
Which CIA director was that, Ole?
Sorry?
Which CIA director was that?
William Colby.
Colby, yeah. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
Colby, and that was in the 70s, you know. So what does that say about now, when everything has been digitalized and upgraded and so on? So it's but just like you say, we are in a bizarre situation at the moment, and if there's nothing else to wake up from, then think about this. Saudi Arabia is now chairman of human rights in the UN. Saudi Arabia, they're also the chairman for the women's rights in the UN.
That's what I mean. It's become comical. It's so ridiculous.
That not? And this was what we were talking about last time as well. You have to just make whatever it is, do a 180 degree, turn it over to get the right name. If it's black, it's white. If it's evil, it's good. If it's good, it's evil. If it's all just absolutely bizarre. And they're ramping up the speed of these because I believe that they are, because so many of us are waking up to it, exposing the very few methods they have. So they need to speed it up so they can push us into this cage and close the door behind us, throw away the key. Because the thing is, if they manage to close that gate, it's going to be really hard for us to get out. So now is a very good time to wake up to what's going on, I tell you.
You know, going to your point about blah, 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 and people will believe it. And who comes and who decided to conduct this survey? It's 62.
I tell you, I can guarantee you there have not been a survey. I'm a former journalist. There have not been a survey.
No.
And what is that? 72% of what of their own gentleman's club while drinking whiskey and throwing darts, that they were 72% of the people there that said that. Statistics, that you can play with it however you want.
Well, as Mark Twain said, there are lies, damned lies, and statistics. So get this, 62%, this according to the independent.co.uk, 62% said they consider themselves to be a global citizen in addition to being British, which will likely disappoint Theresa May, who told the last Conservative conference, if you believe you are a citizen of the world, you are a citizen of nowhere. So just out of the blue, 62% say they consider themselves to be a global citizen. Well, I'll guarantee you, if you walk up to somebody on the streets of Dallas, Texas, and ask them, do you consider yourself to be a global citizen? They're going to look at you like you're nuts.
Yeah. And the same, I tell you, global citizen in England. I mean, there's so many racist people there, and so absolutely not. Absolutely. And 62% of how many do they say that? Or are they claiming that they have asked every single individual in the UK for this thing? I tell you, absolutely not. I can pick up the phone, call anyone in England just by random and ask, were you asked? They will answer no. No, I tell you, no, absolutely no. They're playing with us. And every time when somebody is going down politically, like Margaret Thatcher, now Theresa May is in major problems, they need some distraction. With Margaret Thatcher, it was the Falkland Island War. So suddenly they united the whole country that was almost in lynching mode before. Suddenly the whole country, backed her up with banners and flags and because suddenly the enemy was on the outside, the outer enemy, the one they always try to create. So here, oh my God, she's going down. Let's get some terror on the table, so divert the attention. And so they went to Manchester. So I ask you, how many horrific images from CCTV footage from this massive big arena have you seen?
Not very many, and
exactly.
Every one of them looks staged, including the one where on the floor, I was hoping Chief could find this, but there are a lot of them out there, but it's cool. It looks like there are maybe a half a dozen people. They're all lying on their sides, it appears, and at first they didn't have the little digital distortion, so you can't identify the people. But then again, you couldn't identify them before they put the little digital camouflage over them. Those it was the same photograph that was doctored with that later. But they're all just lying on their sides. I don't see any blood, guts, dismemberment, nothing. Everybody's standing around very calmly. And I think we all know, even going back to the Bataclan thing, I'm not saying that it didn't happen. But what I am saying is that, in my experience, and I do have some of it, when you have a situation like that, where you have dead people lying around, in come the rubber bags, and the people are put into the bags, and then the bodies are removed from the area. You don't drag them out and leave this big streak of blood across the floors. I guess you drag them out to the parking lot? That kind of stuff only happens if you're in some neighborhood in Aleppo that, a U.S. airstrike or a U.S.-led airstrike managed to blow up a bunch of kids and dogs and cats and old people. It's insane. Now we see a couple of streaks on the floor there, but it looks more like a tire track.
No, sorry. No, what I'm saying is, I am not saying that it did not happen. I'm saying that something else than we are being told happened. Because, like, if you've got an arena filled with like 20, 30,000 people, the only thing you need to do is corner off a little corner. And this was where first they couldn't really get the story straight, because first the bomb went out in the foyer and then in another area. So you just corner off a little area there. You got packed with people. At the end of the show, you have a smoke bomb with a sound bomb as well. So you just go boom in the smoke. You have crisis actors lying around. Every single one that were there at the arena will see the smoke, hear the bang, and see what they believe are people that are being hurt. They will believe that they have just seen a terror attack, but they have not. They have heard the bang and there's a smoke bomb. Oh, and here we have the same. Where are all the wounded people? Where are all the dead bodies? There's nothing. And once again, you see people being carried out without the shoes, without the trousers leg. It's always, or many times also in this Masonic ritual, that they have to, pull up one trouser leg that's part of the ritual. Here we see one after the other of the very few images that are actually there where one trousers leg is missing. And then the people that are being wounded and so on are like guys in their 50s and so on. I mean, did they really, really dig Ariana Grande that much that they needed to go there? So then you have these horror stories that are being pumped out, like they always need the hero story. And here, these people delivered pizza to the police while they were saving people. Fantastic. There's one homeless guy who's sitting being interviewed. He looks homeless in his face, dirty, and so absolutely clean hands, looks almost like he works in an office. And he's telling the story how he was helping to drag these bodies out, and there were nails stuck in them, so they had to pull them out of the faces of people. Where are these photos? Where's all the cell phone footage from 20,000 people in there? Why are there only very limited and no CCTV cameras and sharp cameras? And you can also hear over the PA system an American voice saying, calm down, just please evacuate the building. Yeah. No need to hurry,
Even the assassination of that Mexican judge, Zacharias, down there that presided over the El Chapo trial. We see him yesterday. I mean, this is not a mass event. This is just a single deal. But how is it that someone had their smartphone there recording video of a street with the occasional car going down it, narrow street, and now here comes the judge in his black jogging suit, and then up behind him runs another guy in what appears to be an identical black jogging suit, comes up, shoots him in the head, and then runs off, and another guy who's not wearing black, just regular street clothes, a T-shirt and some pants of some sort, they run off together. My question is not whether or not the assassination was authentic. I'm just wondering how somebody happened to be video recording the street just as the judge runs by.
It is lucky, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love it also when you see from war zones and so on, you have a camera on a tripod, filming a building, and then suddenly it's hit by a rocket.
Yeah. Perfect.
How often do you stand and just film a building with a tripod and then it's hit by a rocket? These people are part of it. They're part of it. That's the whole thing. If the camera is, you always have on a film set, it's background action and action. Right. So there's these seconds in between. Mm-hmm. And camera rolling, background action, and action. So this is the thing. The cameras are rolling and then the action happens. That just shows you insiders. They're part of the whole thing. Then you have the numbers of, this is a horrific, if it's true, it's absolutely horrendous. Like 22 people killed, that's a massacre. And then where are the images of people who were killed? Then there are some images of, she died, he died, or mostly girls. But at the same time now they're spreading out images of like there was one girl that was murdered last year, her image also of girls that are still alive. So they're totally confusing the whole thing up, who is alive, who is dead, that person who's said to have been dead is alive. You know, so it's very confusing and difficult to nail down the identities of these things. At the same time, of course, you had a drill exactly 1 year ago. A few days ago, also there was a drill in Manchester, where in a supermarket. Then, like I mentioned last time, Chip Tatum, the CIA whistleblower, who were part of false flags during his career, he said that if they did not get the enough emotional impact of the operation, then they sometimes needed to add another one right after, just to make sure that, boom, there it hit. And so this happened, and then right after, the very next day, there was a threat in a supermarket where the police, massive amount of police cars there, arresting a guy in military pants and so on, just making, oh my God, so it is real, they're everywhere, and so on. So then also, for some bizarre reason that I'm not totally sure of, if it's with numerology, they have a tendency to keep numbering, to have like a number tag on the hands and arms of victims and wounded, and it always has number 3 on it. And we've seen these in different operations in the States. It was at the London bombing, number 3 there as well. It was in Sydney, number 3 there as well. And here in Manchester, one of the wounded, an old lady who was apparently at that concert as well, with number 3 around her wrist as well. So I tell you what you see when you look at the images, you think, oh my God, another terror act. Hang on, let's see, what are the images showing? They are showing lots of police vehicles, ambulances, fire brigade, lots of flashing lights and so on, crime scene, forensic teams there. But what are you looking at? Absolutely nothing. And I sometimes say it's like a massive fart in the wind. That's it. It smells, it looks bad, it smells horrible, but nothing happened.
I'll tell you what.
Then you have there's one image as well where you have a woman from the forensic team standing talking to an English police officer, Bobby, you know, and next to her there's a big poster in the background where it says more hits than ever. More hits than ever. You know, possibly just a coincidence, but when you've seen this many that I have, I mean, I don't know how many I've been looking into, these things are so often there, right in the background, being part of playing with your your psychic, your subconscious, as part of the psyop.
Yeah, it's just subliminal advertising. It's been banned on television for advertising, they say, but subliminal injection of these images is still alive and well.
Yeah, and it's when you're emotionally open, when you're in a shocked state and so on, that's where the biggest impact is. So that's where they put all of these messages, the product placement, all of these things are there. And then you had, there was a Twitter from the Metropolitan Police in Manchester that they blew up a bomb. Don't worry, that we're just going to blow up a bomb here. And the Twitter went out. If the timing of the Twitter is correct, that the Twitter feed that I got, that was like a couple of hours or an hour before the bomb went off at the concert. So it's just exactly like at the Boston bombing, where the Boston Globe went out and said, don't worry, it's an exercise, it's a drill. There's going to be a bomb explosion right opposite the entrance to the public library. And boom, there it happened 5 minutes later. You can also hear in some of the filmed footage from Boston, it's a drill, it's a drill. You can hear it in the background, you know. So nothing new under the sun. It's the same.
Well, I appreciate your staying on it. I really wanted to talk with you specifically. There are a number of authorities out there and a number of people out there that are looking into this stuff, but I'm sorry, Ole, you're kind of our go-to guy on this sort of thing because you're thorough. And more than that, I think that you come at it from the right place. And so may I just say thank you very much for for coming on the program, and we'll check in with you again in the not-too-distant future. I suspect there's going to be another event. Since they've already raised the threat level to critical, I think we can count on it.
Okay. What I would like to say now, it is, what is the date? It is May the 24th. We're getting very close to the Bilderberg meeting, which takes place now at the Marriott Hotel in Chantilly, Virginia. And more or less every single year when this meeting takes place, they have a terror attack as a diversion, a false flag operation that goes off so that the media will not start looking at them and see what the hell are these guys up to. Instead, our focus, our attention will be pulled away. Maybe it's already been pulled away by these two ones, Times Square and now Manchester. But if that is not enough, then there will be within the next few days another one that will pull away the whole attention. But where we should look is at that meeting, finding out what are you up to, you old buggers. So the signs, it's difficult now because they have we were talking about them leaving clues in the evidence after every single one. Now they've started to point in multiple different directions, and Crisis Solutions' own video, I would say, explains exactly that, because now they're able to pull off simultaneous attacks in different countries on different continents. But one place that has been pointed out more than once is the finals in the Football League in Cardiff in Wales, which is going to go down, I think, on the 27th of May. So I really, really, really hope that I'm totally wrong. But should it happen there, please be aware that this was recorded way before. And if so, then it's just one more coordinated. All of these attacks, more or less globally, are connected. This is why I've been able to predict at least 4 over the years on international radio way before it happened.
Yes,
the latest one was the London Bridge attack, which I went out 1 month before it took place and said the next one, Big Ben. So.
And isn't it interesting that the PR campaign is being rolled out now about how many people, what this huge percentage of people who want a global government to help keep them safe, fight pandemic disease, keep us safe from AI turning against humanity, and of course, the inevitable climate change.
Well, they're behind so much of this crap, they're the ones creating the problem. So what we should do is, like, if you want to help us, then go do away with yourself or just stop messing with us. That would be a great help.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea. Yeah.
We don't need any more protection because you're the one creating it. So this is the madness of it all, the magnitude of when you look at everything. Just as an example, after 9/11, how have the world changed after 9/11 due to claimed terror? And where so many researchers, myself included, have taken these things totally apart, showing fake terror, fake inside jobs, state-sponsored terrorism, every single time, meaning that all of these cameras, all of these police officers are in different countries, all of this military presence in the street, all of the body scanners, all of the heightened security crap, all of these, whatever it is, millions and millions and millions of dollars that are being pumped in against terrorism, it's all based on fake terror, inside jobs created by the very same people that are there to protect us. These people are the ones doing it to us.
Maybe they do it to justify their budgets. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
Talk to you again soon, all right?
Take care, John.
God bless. I want to read some from Ole's site, which is lightonconspiracies.com. And as you may know, his books are listed there. Coup d'etat in slow motion 1 and 2, Shadow of Tears, Mind Me, and Yolanda Yoga Panda. And this is what he writes on his site. To the members of the global elite, as well as all police and armed forces who are protecting your hidden identity, your hidden agenda. For so many years, you've been trying to bully and control the world with fear and destruction. Please understand that you are only a few thousand, and we are billions. Even with very advanced technology, you will fail in the end, and greed will never give you eternal happiness. Your souls also know that what you've been up to is totally wrong and is only creating very bad karma for yourselves. All most of us want is to live in peace and harmony while transforming the world into the paradise it is meant to be. So don't fear us. We will forgive and embrace everyone who decides to give up the corrupted mindset. It's now time to stop the madness. And the best part is, in peace and joy, love and light, Ole Dammegard. That's interesting. For so many years, you've been trying to bully and control the world with fear and destruction. Well, we're about to speak with Kathryn R. Robbins. And interestingly, the title of her book is Bullied: The Ultimate Identity